Bacchanalia in Atlanta has remained one of the city's top fine dining spots for decades. The establishment has a Michelin Star, a Michelin Green Star, and serves a $140 4-course prix menu that I just had to try.
It's a beautiful day today here in the fine city of Atlanta, Georgia. So far my trip is going well, I'm having a great time, but tonight the real excitement arrives. I'll be going to my first Michelin-starred restaurant of Atlanta. Tonight I'll be dining at Bacchanalia. Honestly, I know next to nothing about the establishment. All I know is that it has a Michelin star, and compared to the other Michelin-starred restaurants in the city, it is probably the most affordable. Atlanta is fairly new to the Michelin Guide, but it has a pretty respectable showing in terms of the amount of restaurants with Michelin stars and just the amount of restaurants listed in the guide to begin with, which showcases the fact that Atlanta is a great food city. Now, I'm incredibly excited to dine at Bacchanalia this evening, but honestly, I'm more thirsty than anything. It has been so hot out, and I've been outside most of the day today. Earlier, I was at the zoo, which I really enjoyed, although I wish they still had the pandas, but I enjoyed it nevertheless. But I was just dying in that heat. Luckily, I came to the area where Bacchanalia is a bit early for two reasons. One, I don't want to be late for my reservation, and two, I have some free time now, so I can quench my thirst. I'm right outside this Mexican restaurant called Bone Garden Cantina. They've got pretty good reviews, and I hear they have decent cocktails, which maybe I'll get a cocktail or a beer. At least I'll be able to quench my thirst, relax a bit, and then head to Bacchanalia for dinner.
Bone Garden Cantina is truly a feast for the eyes, as the establishment was well decorated and frankly had great vibes. In terms of the menu, the place had some intriguing craft beer, so I got a can of the Señor Delicioso, which is a light-bodied Mexican lager brewed with flaked corn from Service Brewing. That beer hit the spot and proved to be incredibly refreshing. It also helped revitalize me for my upcoming dinner. I had an intense day exploring Atlanta, and it felt good to relax for a bit with a nice beer and book, but soon enough it was time to head to Bacchanalia. Bacchanalia is located in the Atlanta neighborhood known as Blandtown, but as I was soon to find out, there was nothing bland about the restaurant. Bacchanalia opened its doors in 1993 and was situated in a couple of other locations before settling in its current home. The restaurant is the product of chef and owners Ann Quattrano and Clifford Harrison. Over the decades, Bacchanalia has consistently been rated as one of Atlanta's top restaurants and earned their Michelin star as soon as the Michelin Guide launched in the city back in 2023. In addition, Bacchanalia was also awarded a Michelin Green Star for their sustainable practices. In fact, many of the restaurant's ingredients are sourced from Ann and Clifford's farm. There was no doubt about it, I was excited for my dinner, so I arrived to the restaurant right as it opened at 5:30 p.m. for my reservation. Once I was seated, I took in the dining room. Bacchanalia is a spacious restaurant with dark accents and a modern touch to it. I really loved the feel of the place. It nailed the fine line between being warm and inviting while still maintaining a level of sophistication and elegance. Once I was settled, I began to look over the menu. Bacchanalia serves seasonal, contemporary American cuisine in the fashion of 4-course prix menus for $125, although the price has risen to $140 since I visited. In addition, the restaurant also offers some supplement dishes, which include items like oysters and caviar. Next, I explored the beverage offerings, which included a fine selection of wine, but that night I was keen on having a cocktail. I decided on going with the Peach Perfect, which contained vodka, Georgia peach, Galliano, and lemon. That drink just hit the spot. It was well balanced and refreshing, plus I loved the peach flavor, and considering that I was in Georgia, the peach state, I'm glad that I chose that cocktail. Before I was presented with the courses I chose from the prix menu, I was given some nice bites and amuse-bouches to kick off my meal. First up were these pleasant little Brazilian cheese bread bites known as pão de queijo, and they were wonderful. The bread had a nice squishy texture and a rich, cheesy flavor. I could have easily had a whole meal of those. They were a great snack. Those bites certainly proved to be a nice start to my dinner. Next, I received a few colorful amuse-bouches, and each one proved to be a true delight. I really liked the creation in the middle. It was sort of like a mini potato croquette, and it was just bursting with flavor. The bite at the end was also very nice. I believe it was a kind of marinated slice of watermelon, and it provided a nice pop of refreshment. After those amuse-bouches, I was presented not with my first course, but the supplemental oysters that I ordered. Bacchanalia offers a few different varieties of oysters, along with a few different dressings. I decided to go with the Irish point oysters from Prince Edward Island, and I had mine topped with a sorrel granita. They certainly looked appealing, and I couldn't wait to give those oysters a try, and I wasn't disappointed. They were incredible. The oysters by themselves were on the mark from texture to flavor, but it was the sorrel granita that took the shellfish to another level. The combination of the oyster's brininess with the cool and refreshing sorrel granita was perfection. Plus, considering how hot and humid it was that day, those oysters just proved to be the ideal dish. After finishing, I was presented with my first official course of the dinner. I decided to go with the foie gras terrine, which also contains strawberry, almond, and coconut. Alongside the foie gras was this nice little pull-apart pastry that I actually tried just on its own before combining it with the foie gras, and it was so insanely good. Honestly, you could probably top that bread with anything and it would taste good. Next, I tried the foie gras individually along with the other components on the plate, and it was wonderful. Then I gathered all those elements together and combined them, resulting in a truly excellent bite that would prove to be one of the best foie gras dishes that I've had in a while. Plain and simple, that appetizer was top tier. There were so many flavor components to it, from sweetness to richness. I loved it. After I finished eating the terrine, I was asked about my preference regarding the bread and whether I wanted the sourdough, Parker House rolls, or both. I of course wanted to try them both, but I wasn't expecting to be presented with two damn whole loaves. I was figuring that I would get a slice of sourdough, a single Parker House roll, not a whole bakery. Regardless, that was some good looking bread, which was accompanied by some whipped and salted butter along with hummus. I first tried one of the Parker House rolls, and it was basically everything you could want with a Parker House roll. It was warm and fresh with a nice sprinkling of finishing salt. Out of the two breads, I definitely preferred the Parker House rolls, but the sourdough was on point as well. Plus, both the butter and hummus were nice components to enhance already great bread. It wasn't long until I was presented with my main course, the Dover sole, which included a green garlic sauce that was poured tableside. I thought that the dish as a whole had a wonderful, fresh, vibrant summer look to it. Appearance-wise, I loved it. Besides the fish, there were also spring onions and summer squash on the plate. In addition, and I wasn't expecting this, I was given two sides to pair with the Dover sole, which included these lightly fried vegetables along with some sweet marinated bites. To put it frankly, I had a hell of a lot of food in front of me, and I think that I needed a larger table. It's rare that I go to a Michelin-starred restaurant and get filled up, but I had no excuse to leave Bacchanalia with an empty stomach. First, I tried the Dover sole, and it proved to be a textbook example of the dish. The fish was perfectly cooked. It was light and tender, and the green garlic sauce paired very nicely with it. I also enjoyed the other components on the plate, like the summer squash. It really made sense being served with the fish. Overall, that was a good main course. Now, I wouldn't have minded if some of the flavors were a touch stronger, but still, that Dover sole was a true delight. While I was feasting on that fish, I was also going back and forth between my two sides, which I was very fond of. Both of the sides were simple, but they were perfectly executed. In addition, it was so nice to have such a variety of dishes on my table. I pretty much had a small feast before me, and I was loving it. Plus, I still had lots and lots of bread. After finishing, it was on to the third course, which was the cheese course. I got the Comte soufflé with ramps. It looked very good, but the soufflé was collapsing quickly, so I dove right in. Now that was one hell of a cheese course. It was rich and creamy, and the ramps were a nice pleasant contrast. I really wish more restaurants out there would offer cheese courses, because frankly, I love cheese almost as much as I love meat. After finishing, I was given a nice little sweet treat before my final course. I really appreciated all those little unexpected surprises that I had throughout the meal. I was figuring that I would just have the 4 courses from the prix fixe, but instead my dinner proved to be far more dynamic. Finally, it was time for dessert. I went with the Florida strawberry dish, which included brown butter and pecan. Visually, it was a stunner, and flavor-wise, it delivered just as strongly. Strawberries were really highlighted in that dish in various fashions, from a sorbet to freeze-dried examples, combined with the pecan cake that was a comforting, delightful dessert that proved to be the perfect ending to my dinner, but it wasn't quite over yet. After finishing, I was given a few more bites, which included a perfectly crafted Madeleine. Overall, I really had a great time at Bacchanalia. The restaurant exceeded all of my expectations, and like I said, I almost never leave Michelin-starred restaurants stuffed, and I was stuffed. Yeah, next time I'm gonna be sure to choose just one type of bread. Funny enough, I was actually offered a complimentary loaf of bread as I was leaving that was probably left over from Star Provisions, which is right next door and is also from the same owners as Bacchanalia. I appreciated the offer, but I declined since I had enough carbs in me that night to last a lifetime. Finally, I was presented with the bill, which totaled to $184.46, but with my tip, I spent about $220. While the weather outside began to pour, nothing could dampen just how satisfied I was with my experience at Bacchanalia.
Made it back to the hotel. That was a great meal, and I am stuffed, which is not something I say very often when it comes to Michelin-starred fine dining restaurants. Tonight, I experienced one of those rare moments where it was more advantageous to show up to the restaurant as a single diner rather than showing up as a couple or a group. I got to enjoy dishes where most people had to share, and that made me happy. Although I definitely felt bad about getting that much bread. When the guy asked me whether I wanted the Parker House rolls or the sourdough, I was thinking I was just gonna get like a slice of sourdough, a little Parker House roll, not whole damn loaves. I love bread, but even I have limits when it comes to eating, and eating that much bread is just a little too much even for me. Food-wise, I really enjoyed everything. By far my favorite course though was the foie gras. That was absolutely amazing. The flavors on that dish, oh, so good. I love that one. Plus, I really enjoyed those oysters with the granita on them, and considering how hot it was, that was like the perfect dish for the moment. I mean, it was briny and flavorful, but also refreshing. That was excellent. Plus, I also have to mention the service. Everyone was really nice, it wasn't stuffy or pretentious, and things moved at an excellent pace. Overall, I really enjoyed Bacchanalia. From the food to the service to the atmosphere and decor, it really just ticked all the boxes for me. Not to mention, I think they offer pretty good value for a Michelin-starred restaurant, especially in comparison to the other Michelin-starred restaurants of Atlanta. It's definitely one of the most affordable, which also, like I said, was one of the reasons why I went there, because trying to save money, but that was also money well spent. To sum it up, Bacchanalia is a must-visit restaurant. It's a pillar of the Atlanta fine dining scene, and I had a great meal tonight, and I hope one day to return to Bacchanalia.